Picture the day a baby is born in Germany. The mother is legally entitled to 14 weeks of fully paid leave around the birth. After that, parents can share up to 14 months of partially paid parental leave between them. Her job is legally protected the entire time. She cannot be fired for taking it. The income does not stop. Now picture the same day in the United States. There is no federal law requiring her employer to give her a single paid day off. Not one. The only federal protection is a 1993 law that guarantees 12 weeks of unpaid leave, and that law does not even cover everyone. If she works for a small company, she may not qualify. If she has not been at the job long enough, she may not qualify. If she does qualify, she gets to keep her job, but the paycheck stops completely. The United States is the only wealthy nation on Earth with no national paid maternity leave. Not the only one with short leave. The only one with none at all. Every other developed country, and most developing ones, guarantee paid time for a parent after a child is born. The list of countries with zero federally guaranteed paid maternity leave is extremely short, and the United States is on it alongside a handful of small island nations. If you have ever known an American mother who returned to work 2 weeks after giving birth because she could not afford to stay home unpaid, or saved vacation days for a year specifically so she could combine them into something resembling maternity leave, you've already seen the second-order effect of this. American parents assemble maternity leave out of scraps because the system provides no structured floor beneath them. Here is the punchline up front. The United States does not lack paid maternity leave because the country cannot afford it or because no one ever proposed it. It lacks paid maternity leave because of three things that stacked on top of each other over 50 years. A 1993 law that was deliberately written to provide only unpaid leave. An employer-based benefits system that made paid leave a luxury rather than a right. And a political deadlock that has blocked every national paid leave proposal since. Take any one of those three away and the American maternity leave gap closes significantly. Take all three away, which is essentially what every other developed country did, and you get the guaranteed paid leave that the rest of the world treats as a basic standard of having children. And here is the part most people do not realize. The 1993 law that Americans think of as maternity leave protection guarantees no pay at all. It only guarantees that your job will still exist when you return. For a family that cannot survive 12 weeks without income, a guarantee of unpaid leave is a guarantee they often cannot actually use. Hidden Systems explains the everyday things in life that look like personal hardship, but are actually the result of policy decisions made by people the affected families will never meet. Subscribe so you do not miss the next one. Now let me walk you back to where this started. For most of the 20th century, the United States had no federal family leave policy of any kind. An employer could legally fire a woman simply for becoming pregnant until the Pregnancy Discrimination Act of 1978 made that specific act illegal. Even after that, there was no requirement to provide any leave for the birth itself. Whether a new mother kept her job depended entirely on her individual employer. The first and only major federal family leave law came in 1993. It is called the Family and Medical Leave Act, usually shortened to the FMLA. It was significant. It established for the first time a federal right to take time off for the birth of a child, the adoption of a child, or a serious family medical situation without losing your job. But the law had three deliberate limitations built into it from the start. First, the leave is unpaid. The FMLA guarantees that your job is protected for up to 12 weeks. It guarantees nothing about your income during those 12 weeks. For families living paycheck to paycheck, 12 weeks with zero income is not leave they can take. It is a door that is technically open but financially locked. Second, it does not cover everyone. The FMLA only applies to employers with 50 or more employees. It only applies to workers who have been at the job for at least 12 months and worked a minimum number of hours. According to Department of Labor estimates, roughly 40% of the American workforce is not even eligible for the unpaid protection the FMLA provides. Third, it caps at 12 weeks. Even for those who qualify and can somehow afford unpaid time, the protection ends at 12 weeks. In most of Europe, paid leave is measured in months, or in some cases more than a year. First cause, the 1993 law was deliberately written as unpaid. When the FMLA was being debated through the late 1980s and early 1990s, paid leave was on the table. It was discussed. Versions of the bill that included wage replacement were proposed. They were removed during negotiation. The business lobby argued that mandatory paid leave would impose unsustainable costs on employers, particularly small businesses, and would reduce hiring. To get the law passed at all, supporters accepted an unpaid version. The compromise was that job protection without pay was better than no federal protection at all. That compromise became permanent. Once unpaid FMLA passed in 1993, it became the baseline. Every subsequent attempt to add a paid component had to overcome the inertia of an existing law that already technically addressed family leave, even though it addressed it without pay. Here I have to admit something. When I started researching this video, I assumed the United States simply had not gotten around to paid leave yet, the way countries sometimes lag on policy. The data forced me to throw that assumption out completely. The United States did not fail to get around to paid leave. Paid leave was specifically proposed, specifically debated, and specifically removed repeatedly over 3 decades. The absence is not an oversight. It is the cumulative result of a long series of deliberate choices in which the paid component was the part that got negotiated away each time. The behavior did not precede the system. The system was shaped by which provisions survived negotiation and which did not. Second cause, the employer-based benefits system made paid leave a luxury. In most countries with paid maternity leave, the pay is funded through a national social insurance system, similar to how Social Security works in the United States. Workers and employers contribute to a shared pool, and the pool pays wage replacement during leave. No individual employer carries the full cost of any one employee's leave. The risk is spread across the entire economy. The United States never built that pool for family leave. Instead, paid maternity leave in America, when it exists at all, is a benefit individual employers choose to offer to attract talent. Large, profitable companies in competitive industries offer generous paid leave as a recruiting tool. Small businesses, low-margin industries, and lower-wage jobs frequently offer nothing. The result is a two-tier system. A software engineer at a major technology company might receive 16 to 20 paid weeks. A retail worker at a small store in the same city might receive 0. Same country, same year, same event of having a baby. Completely different outcomes, determined entirely by where the parent happens to work. This is the structural difference. In countries with social insurance-funded leave, the benefit follows the parent. In the American employer-based system, the benefit follows the job, and many jobs do not carry it at all. Third cause, the political deadlock blocked every national proposal. Since 1993, paid family leave has been proposed at the federal level many times, by lawmakers from across the political spectrum in various forms. Some proposals funded it through social insurance, some through tax credits, some through employer mandates. Despite broad public polling support for paid leave in the abstract, no comprehensive national paid leave law has passed. The reasons are genuinely complex, and this is where reasonable people disagree. Supporters argue paid leave improves infant and maternal health, increases long-term workforce participation, and that the U.S. is an outlier among peer nations. Opponents argue about cost, about which mechanism should fund it, about effects on small business hiring, and about whether it should be a federal mandate or left to states. Several individual states have passed their own paid leave programs in the absence of a federal one, creating a patchwork where the same worker would have very different rights depending on which state they live in. The debate is real and ongoing. What is not debated is the empirical fact. At the federal level, the deadlock has persisted for over 30 years, and the result for families is that the structured paid floor other countries provide does not exist nationally. Compare those two births for a second. Swedish parent has access to 480 days of paid parental leave per child, shared between parents, with a significant portion at high wage replacement plus job protection. The system is funded through social insurance, so no single employer bears the cost. An American parent's paid leave depends entirely on their specific employer and their specific state. It might be 20 paid weeks. It might be 0. The federal floor beneath them is 12 weeks of unpaid, job-protected leave, and only if they qualify. Same human event. Same century of policy development. Two completely different relationships between a society and the arrival of a child. One treats it as a shared social cost. The other treats it as an individual financial risk. People genuinely disagree about which approach is better. But they are not the same system, and they produce very different experiences. Stack those three causes: the deliberately unpaid 1993 law, the employer-based benefit structure, and 3 decades of federal political deadlock, and you get the modern American maternity leave landscape. A system so variable that 2 mothers giving birth on the same day in the same city can have completely different financial outcomes. So dependent on employer choice that paid leave has become a marker of which jobs are good jobs. So politically stuck that the question has remained unresolved across more than a dozen Congresses. Now here is where it gets notable. The patchwork keeps expanding. In the absence of a federal law, individual states have increasingly built their own paid leave programs. California, New York, New Jersey, Washington, and others have created state-level paid family leave funded through payroll contributions. This has helped millions of workers in those states. It has also deepened the geographic inequality. A parent in one state may have substantial paid leave while a parent doing the identical job across a state line has none. The national gap has partly become a state-by-state map. There is one detail in the historical record worth noting. When the FMLA was signed in 1993, supporters publicly described it as a first step. The explicit framing at the time was that unpaid job protection was the foundation, and that paid leave would be built on top of it in the years to come. The unpaid version was presented not as the destination, but as the beginning. Read that backwards. The 1993 law was understood by its own supporters as incomplete by design, with the expectation that the paid component would follow. More than 30 years later, at the federal level, that second step has not been taken. The foundation was laid as a starting point, and, nationally, the building was never finished. The lawmakers who passed the FMLA in 1993 assumed they were laying groundwork that a future Congress would complete, the way most peer nations had already moved from job protection to paid protection. They could not have foreseen that the United States would still, decades later, be the lone wealthy nation without a national paid leave standard, not because the case was never made, but because the specific step from unpaid to paid kept failing to clear the political process while the rest of the developed world treated it as settled. Every American parent assembling leave out of saved vacation days and unpaid weeks this year is standing on a foundation that was explicitly described as unfinished the day it was poured. If you are an American parent, how much leave did you actually get when your child was born, and was any of it paid? If you are outside the US, what did your country guarantee you? Drop it in the comments. I want to see the real range across this channel. I read every single one.